Hey guys, what's up? Thank you to tuning in to another episode of Complex Like Wine. Here this week we have Nadine with us. So before we get into Nadine and what she has to share with this week, we're going to talk about this week's wine. So here I am, I'm holding a Chardonnay all the way from Chile by Irene Baiva, and she has it named Cuvalle.
Oh wow, Chile? That's
Chile,
cool.
yeah. And it's a 2020. So I'm going to read her bio, how they describe it on the website, and then we're going to taste it really quickly. Okay. So Irene has toiled for many large vineyards for over 20 years as a winemaker, and now she has found her true pleasure in creating her own wine. She studied agriculture at the university, and there she discovered her passion for wine and decided to specialize in winemaking. Once she graduated, she soon went to work and for some of the most renowned wine producers in Chile. After working on mainly a consultancy basis for the last few years, she couldn't wait to get back into hands-on winemaking. And so how they describe it, farmed from Chilean winemakers, Irene has a creamy, smooth white wine just for you, swirling with luscious mouthfuls of fruit and a light sprinkle of oaky spice. Irene sources Chardonnay from vineyards near her estate in Chile, right in the foothills of the Andes, where cool mountain air keeps these prize grapes crisp, packed with complex fruity flavor. All right, so cheers.
Cheers. Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah, how do you like it? Good?
Yeah, it's pretty good, and I actually really don't like wine.
Oh, okay.
I don't really prefer it, but this one's actually pretty good.
I've been saying the past few episodes, I never drink whites. I always usually go red, so.
Oh, really? I feel like I prefer whites.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this past few weeks of doing these episodes has mostly been whites and getting to try some, but this, I really like it.
You're gonna convert to
I might convert to white. Yeah, I might have to.
It's actually it's yummy.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
I'll have to share this with my sister. She loves wine.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely send you the link.
Yeah.
Get it. Okay, so we couldn't really quite figure out how we got connected on Instagram, but I reached out to you because you're so vocal about body positivity. So and I noticed that you do modeling with some of the rave clothing lines, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
I do. Do you want to know how I started?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, so I started my Instagram about like a year and a half ago. I started it for fun because I was at the beach with my best friend and we just recently lost like 20 pounds, like 15, 20 pounds. And she was like pretend like doing a photo shoot of me. We were just messing around. She was like, "Oh, you should start an Instagram." And I was like, "Oh, no. You know, at that time I wasn't really that confident. But I ended up starting it and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I would be happy even if I just got 1,000 followers. And she's like, oh my God, imagine you got 5,000 followers. And I was like, yeah, that'd be so cool. And fast forward to a year later, I hit the 5K and I was like, oh wow, like, it started from nothing really. And I started posting when I was going to raves and my outfits, you know, I was really, finding good sales on fits, you know, because I am a student. So I would just take pictures in it while my best friend would take the pictures for me and then I would post it. And then Rolita Couture was actually like the first brand that I worked with.
Oh, okay.
Not a lot of people know that brand, but now it's based in Las Vegas. It started in Texas. And I did my first photo shoot in Palm Springs. And then from then, after I posted that, I went to some different casting calls and then I ended up working with Rave Wonderland, and I just started working with different rave brands, and then I finally started getting in contact with other brands, and that's how I started just like modeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you like modeling, especially for like rave brands and stuff? I think that's how we got connected through festivals because I love going to festivals.
No, I think it's through festivals, honestly, because I love festivals. Like, I really enjoy it. I've met some really good friends through the rave scene because one of the photographers that I met at a photo shoot for Rolita Couture, she's based out of like Beaumont.
Okay.
But I met her in Palm Springs and she's actually one of my closest friends now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and she took like my graduation photos when I graduated junior college, and yeah, they're amazing people, and I met them through modeling.
So okay, what are some of the things you like most about modeling, especially connecting it to festivals since you first were just doing it for fun and now
Mhm.
it's kind of part of like your business?
Mhm.
So what are parts that you like most about it?
Well, the parts that I love most about it is meeting new people
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you just never know where somebody's gonna end up. For example, like like
Mm-hmm.
I could have easily been like, oh, I don't know this girl. Like, I'm not gonna go do a podcast with her. But I like meeting new people because
Mm-hmm.
you just don't know if you're gonna vibe with them
Mm-hmm.
or if they're gonna have a big impact in your life.
It's true.
Like my friend Stephanie, that was a photographer for
Mm-hmm.
Rolita. Well, she still is a photographer for Rolita Couture. She's one of my greatest friends, and I wouldn't have met her if I wouldn't have stepped out of my comfort zone and modeled.
Mm.
Yeah, and I remember that day I was so nervous,
Uh-huh.
and she kind of just like made me feel like really comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, she's kind of like a safe space for me when I was taking pictures, and I just really enjoy meeting people. And obviously, the perks is like keeping clothes, getting free products. That's
Yeah.
obviously a plus.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say my number one is meeting people.
That's
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
Before we dive more into kind of your whole message on your social media and how that's connected with modeling, the question for like regarding festivals, any ravers listening out there, what's your favorite festival?
My favorite festival at the moment
Mm-hmm.
would probably have to be Beyond Wonderland.
Mm.
Yeah.
Will you be going this June?
Uh, I will have to wait and see. Hopefully I do get to go.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things up in the air right now for my future because I am graduating this semester.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really busy and I really hope I get to go. Right at this moment I am going to Hard Summer.
Oh, okay. I'll see you
So
there.
that's a for sure. And then we'll see about EDC.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think EDC is gonna be like the first big one for me going back. So
Yeah, I've never been to EDC.
I've been twice
Oh,
and
really?
I love it. It's really fun. It makes all the SoCal festivals
Yeah.
kind of very
Yeah.
tiny. But I think my favorite festival so far is Electric Forest in
Oh,
Michigan.
I really want to
Mm-hmm.
go.
Yeah.
Dang, you're lucky.
We can definitely talk more about it later.
Yes.
Yeah. But all right, let's dive into so body positivity. You talk about it a lot in your post.
Hmm.
How has that meshed with modeling and now that you have 5K followers? How's that journey been for you?
Well, I feel like me talking about body positivity is really important to me because I feel like for me to show it on my social media, I need to believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started modeling, I kind of want to say that's when I began
Mm-hmm.
to be very, very confident because I started to realize, like, why do I care what others think when I'm accomplishing things for myself,
Mm-hmm.
like being myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like growing up, I mean, just like we spoke about it earlier, I grew up in a predominantly Asian community, and obviously, my body was very different from the other little girls growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was always bigger or curvier or
Mm-hmm.
this and that, and I feel like I was always kind of like insecure about it.
Mm-hmm.
But once I graduated high school, I realized like, no, that those were just like negative thoughts. And luckily, my family is very confident.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a family of very confident women. So I kind of just always appreciated myself. And now that I have my Instagram, I like to just share my thoughts
Mm-hmm.
because I've realized with some of my friends, it really helps them, even
Mm-hmm.
when we're just chit-chatting, hanging out, and me just telling them about like how I feel and my positivity, it
Mm-hmm.
helps their emotions and them be more confident,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to share that.
Well, has there been any parts, maybe towards the beginning or even now, where sometimes maybe those thoughts come back where you might get conscious, like self-conscious or doubts, or if you have any people on social media that might say negative things, have you ever had any experiences like that even now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I can count the number of times like people have been negative on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like there's been like a total of like 5 people
Mm.
throughout like my social media platform that were negative and they commented. And honestly, I just blocked them
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, it's not that it made me mad, but I was like, why do I want them there?
That's true.
So I just blocked them, but I'm sure, people have their opinions, but at the end of the day, people are going to talk whether you're doing something good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it doesn't really bother me. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really affect me. And I feel like I'm trying to remember a time if those negative thoughts did come back of an insecurity. And I think like right now at this moment, I'm currently trying to eat a little bit better
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like I am starting to gain a little bit more weight, but I am trying to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much like, oh my God, I'm trying to like lose weight. I want to get fit. Like I want
Mm-hmm.
to build like my stamina. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm working on right now.
Mm.
But as for like negative thoughts, no, not really. It doesn't really affect me.
Or what advice would you give people that, whether it's modeling or they're in the arts or they like put their work out there, put
Hmm.
themselves out there, and they get negative feedback or there might be doubts? I know for me, it's my projects, my
Hmm.
films, and now with this podcast, I always get the imposter syndrome of,
Yeah.
people aren't gonna like it.
Hmm.
I'm not qualified to do this.
Hmm.
No one's gonna want to see or listen, and
Yeah.
so for me, thankfully, I have really supportive family and friends that
Hmm.
kind of remind me, like, no, there's always gonna be people that have something to say.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what does it matter? Because you have to live your life.
Yeah. I feel like the advice I would give is to just do whatever you want
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, if you don't do what you want, you're never going to open those doors
Mm-hmm.
for yourself of opportunities that can come to you. Like for example, I do have a YouTube channel
Mm.
and it's been hard for me to stay consistent on it because I am a full-time student
Mm-hmm.
and the times that I have posted, I felt like my videos were not like amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time I didn't mind because I reminded myself that I'm posting it for myself and for myself to have somewhere to go back to
Mm-hmm.
and look at videos of how document my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly don't think my videos are super great yet. It's a work in progress,
Mm-hmm.
but if I would have never posted my videos on YouTube or started it, I would have never got the opportunity to get like my first paid sponsorship
Mm.
through YouTube.
Uh-huh.
So it's like if I wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't have opened the door.
That, yeah, I can relate to that.
Mhm.
I think for me with my short films and now with this, I'm a perfectionist, and so I if no, there's things within all my projects that I know could have done better, wasn't exactly my vision, and so I put it off on posting or sharing because I feel it's not ready. But then at some point, my family reminds me, like, at some point you got to do it. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, but like, I'm my worst critic
Oh
always.
yeah, same.
Yeah, so I always get really hard on myself of it wasn't perfect or it's not the way I
Yeah.
wanted. But then I always realize, people are always not gonna have that same opinion of
Yeah.
yourself, and for me, definitely, I am the one that ends up holding myself back. I'm like the dead weight to myself
Yeah.
when I have those negative thoughts.
Mhm.
Is there like a ritual, or whenever kind of those thoughts happen, is there something you do to kind of like help push you into meeting people or posting?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I am also my worst critic or my
Mm-hmm.
hardest critic. So I read this quote once. It was like, if you wait for the perfect time, it's never going to happen
Mm.
because nothing's perfect. So it's like, whether it's like a photo, a video, a podcast, or a film, like if you're going to wait to post it until it's perfect, like you're never going to post it because
Right.
it's not going to be perfect. So I feel like that quote, it keeps coming into my brain like
Mm.
when I start to doubt myself because it's like, nobody's perfect. Like, no people are out here trying to like, be as perfect as the Kardashians, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, like we never met them. Like there's filters, like filters are fake, like, you know, just be real and authentic. And I feel like that just keeps me going. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if people like what I do, then they like what I do because they're liking me for me, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
I don't want to dive into now what you said about social media is fake. For you, do you need to sometimes find a balance or kind of need to find like a healthy relationship with social media because you are putting yourself out there with these pictures? Is I guess my question is, are there times where you may have a hard, like you might struggle with being authentic or finding what people want to see from your posts?
I feel like I definitely do sometimes overthink like what to say on
Mm-hmm.
social media because, you know, like everybody, we go through ups and downs. And I feel like when I'm going through my downs, I tend to stay off social media because, you know, you go on social media for positivity, you don't go on it for negativity. So when I'm feeling negative, I try to stay off social media.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, like, I try to force myself to stay on it because people aren't always positive. Like, we're not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people who try to act like they are, it's like you're not, you know, just be real. Like, people will relate to you better if you're honest. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those are the only times that I kind of like overthink.
Right. Uh, with this podcast now, I'm kind of being more vulnerable with people that follow me or just in general with the internet.
Mhm.
And so the last guest I had on, we talked about stuff that's personal to us, and we might appear like strong or we have our like stuff together, but
Mhm.
then there's times where we're not posting and we're crying or there's stuff going on mentally. We're like kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sometimes it's tough. So,
Mhm.
what would be something you'd want to tell listeners? Like, if you only could pick one thing to kind of give them advice or something important to share, what would that be?
It's so hard to sum it down to one, but I think my number one advice would be just don't care what people think. Like, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you care, then you're gonna make yourself miserable.
Right.
Hmm.
What now is for goals you want to do more with like body positivity and modeling? Is that something on like what you have planned for your future? I know we mentioned that you wanted to do your master's in social work. Is there any connection between those two?
Well, I feel like when I started college, I started right after high school.
Mm-hmm.
So you as a student know the pressure of having to choose a major. Like, you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to waste time. And you know, I ended up choosing social work because I've been a water instructor for over like 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I've worked with kids and I've seen kids that, you know, are neglected. And I feel like that was a field that I could connect to because I personally have like a friend, a friend's mom that I've known for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She's a social worker and she's done it for years, and I really enjoy her company and I relate to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like social work was a way to go. But for school, for me, I feel like it's my safe plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if my other goals don't work that I have planned for myself, I will always have my education to fall
Mm-hmm.
back on. But I don't think there's like any correlation towards it with it. But as of right now, things with body positivity are on my to-do list, which would be I at the moment I do have some projects I'm working on with some brands that are in, you know, in progress, but I do hope to continue modeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to give myself like a end goal or like a to-do list on what I want to do because I feel like opportunities randomly come to me and then I just take them and then more opportunities open. So with social media, I'm not trying to take it too serious
Mm-hmm.
because I want to remember that I started this for fun. And
Mm-hmm.
when it started for fun, all these opportunities came to me. So that's what I'm trying to stay with right now.
You bring up a good point. I think people can get distracted of
Mhm.
why they started things in the first place.
Yeah.
I know there's times with some of my films where I'll get distracted of why I'm doing this, and I do it because I love it, I enjoy it, and I want to do storytelling. And there's times, especially when they were for school, where I just get focused on, well, I need to turn this in just for a grade, or
Yeah.
now with different stuff, I just need to do this to please people.
Mhm.
I, how do you kind of keep yourself in check or remind yourself of why you're doing this?
I feel like I keep myself in check by how do I explain it? Like, when you're like posting and people sometimes get obsessive over the likes.
Mm,
I try to not get obsessive over the likes because I remind myself that I'm posting what I want to post on my platform.
mm-hmm,
It's about me, it's not about others. Like, I'm
mm-hmm,
not going to just be posting the most of what's getting me likes because it's my page. So
mm-hmm,
it's like whatever's on there is what I want to be on there, and I don't want to be too hard on myself because I'm not there to just please people. It's
mm-hmm.
like I'm there to post what makes me happy.
Right.
Yeah.
I try to do that too with my platform and my page, where I notice maybe pictures of me might get more likes, and then
Mhm.
pictures of my projects, which are more important to me,
Yeah.
don't get as much. And so I
Mhm.
always try to remind myself of, well, I'm doing this for me, and the people that do care will
Exactly.
notice.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I thankfully I've been lucky enough where I've been really on top of posting film festivals and awards for my last film. And that's been helping me get interviews with different film festivals or
Mhm.
different people. And so like you said, just like what you know what's best for you, and like
Mhm.
posting for stuff and kind of talking about putting yourself out there and opening more doors, meeting new people.
Mhm.
What, if you feel comfortable sharing, what have been some of the more crazier opportunities that now have come up of like just posting and modeling or anything?
I feel like, well, the most recent past opportunity that has happened to me is, like I mentioned, me starting my YouTube channel brought in up my first paid sponsorship,
Mm-hmm.
which was a brand from Amazon,
Mm,
and they found me and then they emailed me, and it was like the gateway of me starting to make like an actual bigger profit out of my social media,
mm-hmm.
which wasn't my beginning goal, but now it's something that is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good. But I feel like just me working with like the big rave brands that I've worked with,
Mm-hmm.
they give me something to put like on my resume.
Yeah.
Like if I do ever want to take it further to work with a modeling agency like in LA or Beverly Hills or anything like that, I have something to put on paper like, oh, I have experience with this, I have experience with that. So I feel like those opportunities are my first opportunities were the biggest to me
Mm-hmm.
because it's what helped me get started.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm. That makes sense. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we touched a little bit earlier about, growing up different from our peers, and how did that affect you growing up? Like noticing that you didn't look like the other little girls in your class, or there was differences. Growing up, how, like, where your like mental health, how was that for you?
It just made me feel very shy, I guess, in the sense when it came to my own body.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been pretty like vocal and outspoken, but when it came to like my own body or, with crushes or boys liking me, I never believed it because I was like, oh my God, I'm so big. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
so chubby compared to all these like petite girls that I grew up with. But I think it kind of just caused me to take longer to have self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So, but other than that, after high school, I kind of like grew out of the whole stigma, of like
Mm-hmm.
high school and everything. And I kind of just realized like, oh, well, I shouldn't have felt like that. Like those are boys.
Right.
Like those are boys' thoughts. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm older now. Like adults actually appreciate like different body shapes. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to just be petite and small. Like
Mm-hmm.
not everybody's into that. So I feel like that helped me get confident.
Yeah, I'm not very tall or super curvy, but I am a little darker than most of the other girls I grew up with, and hairier because I'm Latina. So
Mhm.
I would get bullied about that a lot
Mm-hmm.
from boys and girls. And so I, growing up, definitely was segregated from most of
Yeah.
the other girls. And so even in high school, I would have boys comment about my body hair. And
Yeah.
so, be times where like try to like wax my mustache off or like
Yeah.
wax my arm hair because I'd be so embarrassed.
Yeah.
But like you said, you get older and you realize those were boys or those
Yeah.
are, girls that whatever hurt or whatever insecurities they have, they kind of need to project that out. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, when you grow up, now you realize there's lots of different shapes,
Mm-hmm.
sizes, hairiness, color. Yeah,
Yeah.
and now that I'm older and I can appreciate that and I'm now not self-conscious or embarrassed or ashamed of it, it's really beautiful to see how many, just what a broad spectrum
Yeah.
of differences there are.
No, yeah, exactly. And I feel like I can definitely see that happening in school. But I mean, like for me, I always had like a big butt. So even since middle school, I would always try covering it with like a long shirt or a long sweater. But then now everybody like is paying to get BBLs. And
Right.
I'm like, they don't know the struggle of how it was growing up with the big butt.
Hmm.
It's like before it was like, what? Like, oh my God, her butt's so big. But now it's like, oh, her butt's big. It's like, no, like, it's just appreciated differently. It's like trendy now. So, it's
Hmm.
a little annoying because it's like, well, what trend will be happening in the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Will big butts not be trending anymore?
Hmm.
But as for you talking about the hair, I feel like that's another thing that I'm also working on right now. Like, if I do take a picture and I see that I forgot to shave my armpit, I literally still post it because I'm like, okay, I'm not a freaking little girl that
Hmm.
hasn't hit puberty. Like,
Hmm.
my
That's a
armpit
good
has
point.
hair.
Yeah.
Like, like it's not gross. Like, I'm not gonna shave it. Or like even like right now, like I'm wearing shorts and I forgot to shave my legs, but I don't care because
Hmm.
it's like I'm a freaking woman. Like I grow hair. Like I'm not hairless. I'm not a little girl. So I feel like that's another thing that I'm currently working on myself with. I'm trying not to care so much.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, the whole hair thing growing up is like, but you bring up a
Mhm.
good point. Like, you're a woman, I'm a woman.
Mhm.
Like, adults have hair, and it's
Mhm.
totally normal and it's totally okay. There's been posts I've been seeing lately showing stretch marks and cellulite,
Mhm.
and I really love that because those are completely normal. I
Yeah.
think I read somewhere a while ago, I don't know what the stats are now, but it's like 80% of women have stretch marks.
Yeah.
It's and sometimes it's genetic. Like
Mhm.
that's just your body and that's how it is.
Yeah.
And there's times where I'm still self-conscious of wearing shorts because like, oh, I don't want people to see my cellulite or
Yeah.
like I didn't shave. But again, like you said, like you just have to learn like you just don't care what people think.
Yeah,
It's
you
your
can't
body.
care.
If you're comfortable, then hell yeah. Like you do you.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned cellulite, it reminded me when I was very little, we had a family friend. I'm not gonna say her name, because um, but we had a family friend, and I was I was probably like 8 to 10 years old. I don't
Hmm.
remember how old I was, but she was in high school at the time. She was like a senior,
Hmm.
and I thought she was like the most beautiful like girl ever. Like I looked up to her because I thought she was always so pretty,
Hmm.
and she was a close family friend, and she would always be wearing like the shortest shorts to our family gatherings, and she had a lot of cellulite, and I always saw it on her legs as a little girl, but I still thought she was so beautiful. But it was before people started, the whole stigma of like cellulite is ugly. Like, oh,
Hmm.
cellulite means you're fat. Cellulite means you're not fit.
Hmm.
So me as such a innocent child, I was like, oh my god, she's beautiful. Like, oh, I like her shorts. Like, she looks so good. But then as I'm older, just because people start saying that's ugly or it's gross, that's why the negative thoughts started to happen. But currently now, I don't care. I mean,
Hmm.
I wear shorts and I have cellulite. I go to the beach. I go swimming with my family. I wear
Hmm.
whatever I want. So
Talking about like, when you're little and all little kids, they're not aware of what social like
yeah.
stigma or like what the preferred body is.
Mhm.
And like you said, it's all in a like phase.
Mhm.
If you look at the bodies from the 40s and 50s,
Yeah.
they were more curvy and
Yeah.
thicker, and
Yeah.
now like it just
Trendy.
trend like whatever the trend is, that too shall pass.
Mhm.
Is there a moment when you were little, like a little girl, that you start, if someone told you something, or you start becoming aware of what society considered norm.
When did I start becoming aware?
Yeah.
Mm, I mean, I think for the most part, like towards the end of elementary school, I was kind of always aware because I grew up in a very close like family, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
united family. So my aunts were like my second moms, and when I was growing up, I was very very chunky. So they were always, I had one specific aunt, which is funny because today's actually her 2-year death anniversary,
Mm.
but she would always be telling me like, pick up your underwear over your muffin top, pick up your pants over your muffin top. But she wasn't saying it to be mean. She was saying it because she didn't want me to get bullied.
Mm.
Like she was being harsh on me before others were harsh on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate it now, but they would always remind me like, don't eat too much, don't eat that, too much bread,
Mm-hmm.
don't drink soda, you don't want to get fat, you're gonna get fat and ugly like me, you're gonna, you know. So ever since I was little, it's like, oh, being fat is bad, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I lost like a lot of weight towards middle school, my aunts were like, oh my god, like they always thought I was beautiful, you know. But once I hit middle school and I lost a lot of weight because sports, they were like, oh my gosh, like, you know, she's really like blossoming into like, you know, a beautiful young woman. And then now that I'm older, you know, I've gained some weight again, but I feel like my thoughts are very different from how I grew up with my family. You know, the older generation were more like, you know, you're getting too fat, this and that. But for me, it's like, well, you know, if you want to be fat, then be fat. You know,
Right.
there's nothing, as long as you're not like about to die because you're like unhealthy. But if you want to be on the heavier side, then go for it if you're happy. I mean, I don't mind. Yeah,
I think, again, different body types carry weight differently, and sometimes
exactly.
you're naturally more curvy or thicker, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're just naturally thinner. Like my brother, he's got the thin genetics. I didn't, and so growing up, he, even now, he can eat whatever he wants. At like midnight yesterday, he was having ice cream. And I'm like,
Oh.
ugh, I sometimes wish I had the metabolism where I can just eat whatever I want at any time. And growing up, I was a little pudgy too. These more noticeable than other girls growing
Yeah.
up. And so with my mom, I always was made be self-cautious
Mm-hmm.
of, you can't eat any more this, like don't eat that. Again, like you're gonna get
Yeah.
big, like watch your weight. And so from a young age, I kind of be made, was more aware like I can't eat as much as my brother, or
Yeah.
like I have to be more careful because my body's just going to gain weight much easier than
You're gonna
my,
retain it quicker.
yeah. And that's also the thing, like women, it's easier for women to retain weight than men, but it's also because biologically what our bodies can do.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and see, and that's why I feel like back in high school, you know, if girls, I remember there was like girls in my high school that would get like bullied for having like a fupa,
Mhm.
you know, the fat
Mhm.
in front of their you know, their uterus.
Mhm.
And it's like boys are bullying for that, but it's like you guys are boys, you don't know anything, you know?
Mhm.
And it's like now growing up, like I mean, I have a boyfriend and it's like obviously I'm not super thin, but it's like I always remind him like my body is meant to recreate human bodies.
Mhm.
Like if we were to have a child, I have the goods to like
This
keep,
body can do
yeah, to
it.
keep my child healthy. Like that's why we get a little bit of more like fat towards like our obliques, you know,
Mhm.
because we have to protect our embryo, you
Yeah.
know, in the uterus. And it's like boys don't know that. They just
Mhm.
think it's like, oh, she has a fupa, she's fat. It's like,
Mhm.
no, all our fat goes there because we're supposed to make children from the day we get our period.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, again, I don't think people, at least like when you're younger, you don't realize, especially when puberty happens, your body's changing. It's very different for men and women because the hormones and how your
yeah,
body's is like meant
very
to be,
different.
and
Yeah.
very different. And so for me, I only grew up with my dad, my brother, and all my friends up until college, like my really good friends were all
Hmm.
boys.
Hmm.
And so there's times where they might talk about other girls, and it would make me like, oh God, are they talking about that
Because they
me?
would be a little mean.
They'd be a little mean. And some, like, again, I'm hairy, so people would go
Yeah.
in my face of like, oh, you're hairy. And now I don't do anything with my peach fuzz because I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so I think sophomore year, I didn't really know that the trendy thing is to do your eyebrows.
Mhm.
And I have some pretty thick eyebrows naturally.
Mhm.
So I remember these two girls would tell me, like, you probably should start plucking your eyebrows. And I got confused. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, your eyebrows are kind of thick. They look like boy eyebrows. And that day I came home from school and like watch a bunch of YouTube videos of how to like do my eyebrows because I didn't want to like
Yeah.
look ugly.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, it's now trendy to have thick eyebrows. Like it,
Exactly.
so my biggest takeaway growing up is doesn't matter what the trends are because in the next decade, like it's gonna change.
Exactly, and that's why I tried so because I also have very thick eyebrows. Like if I don't do my eyebrows, I'll have a unibrow. Like that's how thick my eyebrows are. But yeah, ever since high school, my older cousin, she would always remind me, like um there's always going to be trends. So just do whatever you want to do and be you or be natural because
Mm-hmm.
like you won't look back at a picture and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I did that." Like cuz it was
Mm-hmm.
trendy.
Yeah.
So it's like lucky for me like when I look back at like my high school pictures, like yeah, I do look a lot thinner in my high school pictures, but my face looks pretty much the same
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't thin out my eyebrows. I didn't like put makeup on. I didn't try to change my features for the trends. I was just pretty much natural.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to do now too. I don't try to really thin out my eyebrows. I just clean them up. I mean, right now I'm not even wearing makeup because I've been breaking out. But it's like like
Mm-hmm.
everybody breaks out. Like I'm not trying to be fake.
Right. Yeah, also talking about like acne or different stuff, when you're younger, kids get ruthlessly bullied for
Yeah,
acne, and sometimes it's really hard because it's hormonal. Like for
exactly.
me, it's
Genetics.
genetics. Like for me, I have hormonal acne, and so once I
Yeah.
got older, like the dermatologist said, "Oh, let's recommend birth control because
Yeah.
that will help with your skin." And so
Hormones.
for me, I know that helped with my confidence because I wasn't
Mhm.
feeling so self conscious about it. And some people get back knee or different
Mhm.
stuff on their chest, and I want to remind like younger viewers, it's completely normal.
Yeah.
Almost everybody has acne at some point,
Yes, exactly.
especially if you're a woman. You're gonna sometimes get it when it's near your cycle, and that's
Mhm.
completely normal. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little annoying. I get it,
Mhm.
but like, it's
It
totally
happens.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing that for me, I feel like it's the opposite. When I was like in middle school and high school, I never broke out.
Mm.
Like never broke out.
Mm-hmm.
My face was super clear, and I feel like now I'm starting to break out, but I'm also, I'm older, birth control this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my body's changing. So I feel like now I'm starting to break out more. But, I'm not like ashamed of it cuz everybody goes through their time. You don't know when your time is. Some
Right.
people break out after they're pregnant. Like
Yeah.
you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like and like for example, like my best friend, she had really bad acne in high school, like really bad acne. And now her face is clear, and we're 23, so it's
Mm-hmm.
like you just never know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Is there other things you've kind of noticed now that you're older that, as kids we're put pressure to think or to act? Is there things you notice now like it doesn't matter anymore. Like we're adults.
Yeah, I feel like for kids, like when you're in school, um, you know, some shoe brands, backpack brands, like
Mm,
they're like cool, or in order to be considered like popular, you need to wear like a certain outfit or comb your hair a certain way. I feel like it's all
mhm.
bullshit. Like,
Mhm.
don't, I even tell my nephew all the time, like, dude, just wear whatever you want. Like,
Mhm.
like, I remember when I was in elementary school, Vans have always been really, like, cool. But I know the people that had, like, really old, like, dirty, like, Payless shoes, they were, like, not cool
Mhm.
because they didn't have Vans. And I feel like it just, it just creates more personality, I think. Like
I
when you're older.
I agree.
Yeah, it's like if you struggled growing up, it's like you have personality. If you were like just pleasing people in elementary, middle, and high school, like you don't have much personality.
I 100% agree with that. Because growing up, my school was primarily Caucasian and Asian.
Mhm.
So I was really the only Latina girl growing up. And most of those girls, yeah, just kind of assuming I don't know their full story, so I don't want to like make specifics, but I know they would come to school with Abercrombie and Finch and
Mhm.
like the brand name clothes.
Yeah.
And, growing up, I didn't have that. I grew up with a single dad, so
Yeah.
I did the best that I could.
Yeah.
And so, and there was times where they would bully me because of what I would
Mhm.
wear. And, as a kid, it's out of your control. It
Yeah,
depends on
no,
your circumstances.
exactly.
But now that I'm older, I'm definitely more vocal or centric with what I wear, how my hair is, like my style.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it gives you character.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think I'm more proud of with myself is I never falled for following with the clique or the
Yeah.
crowd just because it was cool to bully people or
Yeah.
to like make fun of people. What I'm really thankful is my dad like taught me, they probably have some hurt or insecurities going on and they're projecting. If
Exactly.
you are yourself and you stick to you, that is the biggest, F you can give to
No, yeah,
anybody. Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like I agree with you because I feel like in high school, I was blessed with my mom taking us shopping to those expensive stores.
Mm-hmm.
I always I wouldn't shop just because it's cool. I would get what I want, but it would end up being like cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes in school people would be like, "Oh, Nadine has money, like this and that." But they didn't know my story. They didn't know that like my older sisters bought clothes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my parents didn't have money to buy me stuff, and my sisters would take me school shopping. My older sisters, but I'm not gonna share everything with them. It's none of their business.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like since I know what it is to like struggle, even like in high school when some of like the quote unquote like cool kids would make fun of like people for wearing like knockoff Uggs, I would literally be like, well, and and because I would always back up people that were getting bullied throughout like high school up to my senior year,
Mm-hmm.
I ended up gaining a lot of enemies
Mm.
because I just wouldn't keep my mouth shut. And I feel like those people that would wear like knockoff Uggs or knockoff Vans or this and that, I would tell the people that are bullying them, like, well, what is it to you? Like, why do you care?
Yeah.
You know? And like, for example, I mean, like Diego, my nephew, like when
Mm-hmm.
he was like in the third grade, we like cut his hair and it was so cute. It was so cool, It was trending at the time. And this little girl told him like at open house, she was like, Diego, what, she was like, she basically told him something about his hair,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to tell him something that like it looked, oh yeah, she's like, your hair looks weird. And he was like walking with his Coca-Cola in open house and he like looked at her and he's like, I don't care.
Go Diego.
And he like walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that little girl in your class? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, what class is she in? And he told me, and I went over there and I found her with her mom and I like tapped her on the shoulder and I was like, are you so and so? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, did you tell Diego this? And she's like, she got nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you don't tell people that. I'm like, that's mean. I'm like, you need to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and don't be mean to people like that. And her mom was right in front of me as I told her that. And her mom was like, did you tell him that? And she started crying and I walked away.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I made sure the mom was there.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where bullies start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I cut that off real quick.
Yeah. I think an important thing to remember is don't take it to heart what kids tell you,
Yes.
because kids are kids. They say ruthless stuff because they don't think, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're hurting. And so, like most bullies, they need to put you down to make themselves feel better.
Exactly.
And so, for me, the best thing that my dad taught me was don't take it personal. They're just projecting, and they feel like they need to put you down to make themselves feel better.
I agree.
Yeah, so I always remember, like, sometimes it sucks. One time I had to talk to the principal because these group of girls were bullying me for months. And, advice to kids, or if you're elementary, middle school, high school, if you need to speak up, speak up. And other people, if you see someone's getting bullied, stand up for them.
Yes, stand
Mm-hmm.
up for them and
Mm-hmm.
always stay true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always did. And I feel like that prevented me from getting bullied
Mm-hmm.
because I did have friends, or so I thought they were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I think back, I'm like, they were just classmates. They weren't
Yeah.
really my friends, but at the time I thought they're my good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them would come and like dang, your legs are so big, or dang, your butt's so big, or like, oh my god, Nadine, you're so tall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're taller than all the guys. And I would always just be like, okay, and like, I could whoop your ass, you know? So I feel like I would always defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
So people knew, like, it's not gonna hurt me.
Right.
You could comment on my body, and I'll comment on yours. Like, I don't
Mm,
care, you
yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how it went, and it helped me.
Yeah. Growing up, I always try to be the person that would talk to the new kid
Mm-hmm.
because
Same.
it sucks. You like the new kids, they're anxious, they don't know anybody, and so I'd always try to talk to them. And if someone was getting bullied, again, like you would like stand up, like, hey, like don't say that, or
Yeah.
confront them, or
Mm-hmm.
let somebody know they're being bullied. That way, they can do whatever they need to. Like
Exactly.
don't keep it quiet. And I think for me, I'm always like really passionate about bullies because you have your friends,
Yeah.
elementary, middle school, and there's these group of girls that I was friends with, but at one point I found out later they had a whole sleepover to talk crap about me.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so two of the girls of like the 4 or 5 told me like, "Hey, we did this. I'm sorry." I'm like, "Okay, well, thank you for letting me know and apologizing." And the other girls, I'm like, "You know what? You're fake. You're cut out." Yeah,
Yeah.
some
That's so fake.
kids can be ruthless.
Yes. Very ruthless. They don't know how it could damage somebody in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the biggest learning lessons now that you're older, you're a woman, you're growing, now you have a boyfriend? What are some things that you've are like the highlights of things you've learned, or if and when you have kids, what are things you'd want to teach them about, being yourself, body
Mm-hmm.
positivity?
I feel like the biggest thing I've learned growing up was like, and I've learned the hard way, is like, don't give people, don't give people that you think are your good friends your all, because when push comes to show, like, they're not gonna reciprocate it
Mm-hmm.
for the majority of the time. I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, but I feel like I've learned in the hardest way that like my friends never went the full length to help me like I would always help them,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up backfiring on me. And now I don't really like care to keep a lot of friends, because I'm like, well, how did you help me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what did you do for me? And it comes back to even like, some friends that I've had for years, like those are some of the people in high school that would comment on my body,
Mm-hmm.
and I just didn't take it to heart. But what if I was weaker? It would have like really damaged me for the
Mm-hmm.
future. But I feel like if I had kids, I would really just make them feel good about themselves all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like self-confidence is like unstoppable. Like, you're unstoppable once you have that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can hurt you.
Yeah, once you love yourself
Mhm.
for whatever body you're in, like this
Mhm.
is what you have. You got to make the most out of it.
Mhm.
And don't care what people think because it's not their body. They're not
Exactly.
you.
Yes.
They have their own problems they're dealing with that they're not putting out. So
Mhm.
it's like you just focus on yourself.
And
Do it.
accept your flaws.
Yeah, because everyone has them. Nobody's perfect.
Mhm.
I think that's something I've been learning a lot. Not so much with the physical stuff, because I think I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty content and happy, like physically where I am.
Yeah.
But there's times where mentally where I get really hard on myself because I'm not where I want to be, or like I'm
Yeah.
not perfect for other people, and it's okay that you're not,
Mhm.
because you can like once you're aware that nobody's perfect, there's stuff that you need to work on, then hell yeah, you got a
Yeah.
direction to go to get
Exactly.
better.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like that's the most important. Accept yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I mean, I have flaws, but I accept them.
Mhm.
So it's like, and what?
Yeah. And what?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to share or touch on?
Mm, I guess like the last thing I'd want to touch on is, I know a lot of people that are out there that wish they had the confidence to start doing social media
Mm.
and start their platform, but are very nervous about what people think or what people are going to say, and if they're going to fail or if they're going to look stupid. And I just feel like I just want to tell people, like, just do it. Like, just start it. You don't know what's gonna come from it. You can open like the biggest opportunity for yourself by starting the smallest thing.
That's a good point.
So it's like, just do whatever you want, even if you feel stupid. Like, we need to remember that we're the same little kids that we were once. We're just older. So it's like, why are we gonna stop our dreams just because we're older? Like, we need to keep that same inspirational mentality from when we were little, and not let like financial status or location or society stop us from what we want to do because we're older and we know more. Like, we should still shoot for the stars like we wanted to when we were children.
You bring up a really good point, because again, once you go into college and it comes time to like, how do I adult and what's logistical, what makes the most sense financially and stuff, a lot of people lose sight of that fire in them, or that inspiration as a kid, the shooting for the stars of what do you want to do to make happy. For me, I picked film. It's not the most stable or straightforward path, but for me, I rather struggle a little bit but do something that
makes you happy.
Makes me happy, and I don't consider a job that like, I'm dreading to go. And thankfully I've had a really supportive dad that like, do what you want to do, let's get you there. What would be advice for people that maybe don't have a supportive family unit, that they know what they want to do but there might be backlash to them?
My biggest advice to those people would be, don't listen to anybody that's not living the lifestyle you want. Like, I'm not gonna listen to anybody that's not living the lifestyle I want. Like, if I want to do something that's outrageous and you never did something that's outrageous and you're telling me not to, it's like, I'm not gonna listen to you. You don't know anything. So, yep, don't don't listen to people that do not have the lifestyle you want, because they weren't brave enough to do it. So
that exactly. Again, it's your life. You got to do what makes you happy. And like you said, if you keep doubting yourself or don't put yourself out there, you're going to have a whole life of what ifs. And regardless if you do it and maybe you realize, oh, I didn't really like how that happened, or maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted, now you know.
Yes.
And you have more clarity for your future.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. For me as a creative, I've definitely had to learn how to have a healthy relationship with that. There's certain projects didn't turn out the way I wanted, or I get backlash, and I always have to remind myself, even with this podcast now that it's starting, like, okay, well, learning lessons, some of the episodes might have technical difficulties or things that might work out, but I'm starting. And not a lot of people get to do that.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, is there any things you want to plug in for this episode? Your YouTube, Instagram?
Well, definitely follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Nadine Martinez. Martinez has 2 I's. And my TikTok and YouTube are linked on it, so you can find me on there. Hopefully this summer I start to do more things on my YouTube channel, because I am graduating this semester. So I'll finally have more time. Haven't had a break from school ever, so
yeah, I graduated last year, and kind of finishing, it's like that like home drive of, okay, I'm almost there.
So close yet so far.
Yeah.
But yep, so definitely follow me on my social medias.
I'll link them below, whatever platform people are listening on.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was nice to finally meet you. And
yeah, it was really nice to meet you too.
Thank you. I think this was kind of cathartic for me, because, as a girl that kind of grew up ostracized or with some bullying, I definitely learned a lot of, screw what people think. It's your life. Do you.
Yes. Yeah. Do you. Like Nike says, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Okay, well, thanks guys for tuning in for another podcast episode. And this is Nadine, and I'll put all her social medias below so you guys could follow her and get connected. And right.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. No, thank you. I'll do one more cheers. All right. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.